Hey everyone, good to see you here today as we continue on through First Peter. Today we're going to look at First Peter chapter 3 verse 8. To sum up, let all be harmonious, sympathetic, brotherly, kind-hearted, and humble in spirit, not returning evil for evil or insult for insult, but instead giving a blessing, for you were called for the very purpose that you might inherit a blessing. Here, Peter talks about the importance of our relationships with other people. He prefaces everything by saying, be harmonious and sympathetic and brotherly and kind hearted and humble, forgiving one another, he says to us. And then he goes on and he says, not returning evil for evil or insult for insult. There's really three ways in which we can respond to the people around us. We can respond in an evil way, and that is returning evil for good. Somebody does something good for us and we return evil for them. We see a lot of times people do that in the world around us. There's also the natural response that Peter addresses here. He says, don't return evil for evil or insult for insult, because that's the natural response. The natural man says that if you do something bad to me, I'm going to do something bad to you. However, Peter calls us to a supernatural response. He says, don't return evil for evil or insult for insult, but return a blessing. So that even when people say bad things about me, I'm to return a blessing. When people do evil to me, I'm to return a blessing. As followers of Jesus Christ, as aliens in this world, as foreigners, as pilgrims, we're to live differently. We're to live according to the inheritance that we have in our home in heaven. And we are to respond supernaturally. Now, I can't respond supernaturally on my own. That's why it's called a supernatural response. I need the supernatural power of Jesus Christ to work in me in order to respond with a blessing even when I've been insulted, to respond with kindness even when evil has been perpetrated upon me. The story is that in April 15th of 1947, Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier of Major League Baseball. It was not quite a month later, it was May 13th of that year, that the Brooklyn Dodgers were playing a baseball game in Cincinnati. Jackie Robinson came out in the starting lineup at first base, and the people of Cincinnati were extremely harsh towards Jackie Robinson. They were hurling insults upon him and racial slurs against him. And in the midst of all of that, there was another player on the Brooklyn Dodgers by the name of Pee Wee Reese. Pee Wee Reese grew up not far from Cincinnati in Kentucky, and in the midst of all of this, Pee Wee Reese walked over to first base, put his arm around his friend Jackie Robinson, and looked at the crowd. The story is that the crowd started to subside from their taunts and their jeering towards Jackie Robinson because they saw somebody stand with him. And as I think about that story, I think that is exactly what God has called us as Christ followers to do for the people in our lives. To be kind and sympathetic and brotherly and humble with them. The whole New Testament is filled with commands that we are to do for one another. We are to one another. And so I want to encourage you as you walk through this life as a pilgrim, as an alien, as a stranger, that we would walk humbly and kind-hearted with the people around us.